Hello, I'm Vicki Butler-Henderson and welcome to the Historics Auctioneers Refuel podcast. In this particular episode, we are looking at cars with a royal connection and what they say about the people who drive them.
Buying or selling a classic car? Head to historics.co.uk or click below for a free valuation.
Yes, welcome to the Historics Auctioneers podcast. Refuel is what its name is. And we are very wonderfully joined this week by royal historian, author, journalist, Giles Chapman.
Hello.
Hello, Giles. And as ever, my trusty sidekick, Mathew Priddy.
Do I only get one thing? Do I only get I want a reel of 3 or 4 things?
No, that's it. You're lucky you got trusty.
Okay, yeah, very lucky, yes, you're right.
Who will be telling us some very important things about social media.
So, social media, you'll be watching this, I'm sure, on one of the many social media platforms, whether it be YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Please do like, share, subscribe. Send us a little comment in the box below, just down here. You can be as offensive as you like. We'll just filter you out, don't worry. But it just means that we get to continue making these lovely podcasts for you people. So please do engage. That makes things a lot easier.
Thank you very much. Now, to Giles, you have just written your 60th book.
Yes, I have.
What is it about?
It's about Jaguar, and it's about the birth of Jaguar. And in fact, the book is really a speech given by William Lyons, who founded Jaguar, about how he did it. And this has never been published, as far as I know. So I've got his grandson to do a forward for me, and then we have him talking about how he founded Jaguar, and then me at the back talking about what happened afterwards, and all the sort of troubled times that Jaguar sort of ran into after he'd gone. So I'm really excited about doing this, and thanks a lot to Sir William for writing the middle bit. Really, it saved me a lot of time.
saves AI doing it as well.
Absolutely, yes.
What is your take actually on the sort of the modern latest woke Jag adverts?
Well, I mean, they really are. They really have hit the publicity trail. With spectacular success, in that everyone's talking about it. And I think that the car itself is just a concept car. It's not the thing we're going to see on the road. But of course, they have paused production of every single other vehicle, so it does all feel a bit kind of a sort of scorched earth, really. And I think that's the first time any car manufacturer of that scale has ever done anything like this. So. My view would be to wait and see. I should imagine the car of its type is going to be, is be excellent.
Yeah.
But what is interesting is reading Sir William's speech of all those years ago. He was not the traditionalist you'd think he would be. Everyone goes on about sort of British racing green and leather interior and all the rest of it. He was always looking right over the horizon at the next thing. So, but for British Leyland, Jaguars would have continued to be ever more futuristic from the sort of 70s and 80s onwards. It's just that circumstances got in the way. So, if he was alive today, he'd probably be very quietly saying, well, okay, let's see how it goes. Sounds interesting. Yeah. That's what I think.
Oh, fascinating stuff. Love it. And the reason why we're talking about royal cars is because we have got a royal car in this particular auction here in July, and we are fittingly in Windsor.
Yes, perfectly in Windsor.
Perfect.
And just to follow on the Jaguar trend, it's a Jaguar E-Type. So Prince Michael of Kent's own Jaguar E-Type supplied new to him.
Right.
And we have that here at auction. There's some lovely stories, a bit of provenance behind it. And of course, it then sort of puts us very much on topic of the royal cars we have sold over the years, and how that may provide an uplift in value, of course, which traditionally it has done.
Well, first of all, Giles, what inspired your interest in royal cars?
Well, I mean, they're just part of cars, and I've always been potty about cars since I was a kid. It's really what got me into being a car writer, and as I specialise a little bit in the whole world of classics and so on, mid-20th century, I think cars do come to be quite linked to the royal family in lots and lots of different ways. I mean, me personally, I was working in the Daily Telegraph for a few months in the 1990s, and in those days quite a posh paper, and you used to have to come into work in a suit and tie and everything. And I remember saying to my editor, is this strictly necessary to sit in this building and sit behind a computer like this? And he said, well, yes, because every single journalist here might get called to the palace at any moment for an important story. And I thought, Right, okay, fine. And then it did actually happen to me. I was dispatched to the Royal Mews in Buckingham Palace, and I did a piece about the seismic change they were going to make to the fuel systems of all the limousines there, because they converted them all to run on LPG, I think. And so they make a big song and dance about it. And I went along with my notepad, and I met Jim, or whatever he was called, not a royal.
Front of house.
Yes, indeed. Who, opened the bonnets and explained it all to me, and I just about understood what he was talking about. So, from that point on, I've sort of come into contact with royal cars quite a lot, and never more so than when I went to Sandringham, where there is an amazing collection of royal cars that you can go and see. You can just wander in there. They hardly even signpost it in the gardens.
Well, anybody can go in.
Anyone can go in, yeah. And they've got Daimlers, Rolls Royces, they've got cars owned by Prince Charles, they've got shooting brakes, they've got all sorts of stuff.
Wow.
And it's it's just past the gents near the ice cream van type thing. What's in a way a little bit sad about it is that none of them work. They're a lot of them are on flat tires and things like that. And I did actually say to the person who was allowing us access, can we push Charles's MGC out into the sunshine to get a nice picture? And she just looked mortified. It was as though I'd said, could we take that painting and just lie it on the lawn and photograph it flat? She said, oh no, we can't do that. So they're regarded really as static antiques. And that's what's, in this world where I think we all encourage driving of classic cars and use of classic cars, there's a little bit of melancholy about that. But they're all being preserved, which is good.
Yep.
It's sort of a plus and a minus, isn't it? They are preserved, but it's a shame that they're not in some way better curated and looked after in that respect. It could be easily its museum in itself. Yeah,
it could absolutely. And there's there's quite a lot of space there, and some of them are in their own sort of painted displays with sort of backgrounds and so on. But I think the chance of engine seizure if you were to start any of them is probably enormous, and they don't really regard those things as a particular draw to Sandringham. I mean, there will be now. I've told everyone about it.
Really hot-tailing it down there.
but that's just it. There is a sort of little bit of an odd detachment between the royal family and the cars themselves, which is born of the fact that I suppose they never really have to fill in an MOT form.
Maybe the love for the car is different to the normal driver.
It is. Yes.
There's the keys and enjoy it, but there's no real full affection or affiliation to having to look after such a thing.
Well, I think when you've always been allowed to have any car you want just brought to where you are so you can drive it, just
like being a motoring journalist.
Yeah. Absolutely. Whereas I think most people involved in collectible cars, historic cars, it's a lot of hard work under the bonnet.
Yeah, I can't imagine that we almost joke about the enjoyment of breaking down in a classic car, and it's part of the journey, and thinking, well, they probably didn't ever experience anything like that, and if they did, they'd be very swiftly shuffled into another car and moved on, wouldn't they?
I know all the classics I've ever had. I just would have loved a security guy in a Land Rover, Land Rover Discovery behind who could just take me home when it burst into flames. That would be great.
Or I'm just a bit tired of this gear change now.
The noise, the vibrations.
It was fun for a moment. Leave it here.
Did you know if the royals ever have to pass their driving tests?
No, I believe that the monarch doesn't.
Just the monarch.
But she was a very early example of a member of the royal family who did enjoy driving herself, and that all quite famously started in the Second World War, where she was driving army trucks, and she could open the bonnet, and I don't think she could lift the engine out and take it to pieces, because she could definitely analyse what was wrong with it and so on. So I think that for her really turned her into quite a keen driver. So she was she was on Britain's public roads without a licence, and sometimes. Well, actually, not without number plates. That's only when she's in the royal car and she's not driving.
Yeah.
So she always had to have number plates. But yeah, she could take to the roads.
So does King Charles have a licence? Do you think? Did he?
I think he does have a licence.
Yeah,
because he passed his test when he was 21, and he wasn't the monarch then. Yeah. So
he aged 21.
Yes.
Ooh, late starter.
Yeah. And do you know what his birthday present was?
Oh, it was an Aston Martin. No.
The first one was an MGC GT.
Oh God! I bet he went. No, take it back. Give me the Aston Martin. Was it?
Yeah.
It's a gift.
It's a maligned car sometimes, the
Oh.
MGC, but I
Yeah,
think, I
yeah.
think at the time it was probably quite cool. And
Yeah.
he wasn't reading classic car magazines that said, "Oh,
No,
the engine's
no.
a bit gutless." He probably just thought, "Oh, this is lovely, thanks."
Giles, what did you have for your 21st birthday?
My dad gave me £100 to take my friends to the pub.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Matthew, 21st birthday?
21st birthday. Oh, I think that's when I got a private number plate, which has plagued me for the rest of my life.
Are you actually being serious?
Yeah, because obviously every time you put it onto a different car, you're paying someone more money.
yeah,
And I've
that's
done,
true.
and I have terrible, I change cars like the wind. So,
Yeah.
so every year, 16, 18 months, I change cars and I'm paying again to move a sort of...
How much is it? 70 quid?
I
to
think it's
move it?
£80
Yeah.
to put it either onto retention or assign it to a new car, and I get it over and over. It's like another tax. It's a tax. I was gifted the gift of tax every year I change the car.
Would you like a couple of private number plate royal nuggets?
Yes, we would, Giles.
Well, what I can say is that when the Queen got married to the Duke of Edinburgh, I think the Women's Royal Navy Reserve or some sort of women's regiment, they clubbed together and they gave her a brand new Daimler, and that had the number HRH1 on it.
Oh, that's so cool.
And not only that, but she's got a car that's now in Sandringham where the number plate is MYT1.
Majesty.
Well, mighty.
Oh, of course. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's a rare stab at royal humour.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's the end of private number plates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
What is the difference then between a personal car and a ceremonial car?
Well, the ceremonial cars are all looked after by the Royal Mews, and they, as the title suggests, they're really for sort of visits and parades and so on. And the personal cars are obviously all going to be the ones they drive privately when they're not actually on duty. So they have all sorts of cars at the Royal Mews, Daimlers, Rolls Royces, and of course the Royal Bentleys, and they're all allocated for all kinds of things because all the royals use them all the time. And it's amazing sometimes that the very old Rolls Royces are brought out for, weddings and funerals.
Yes. Yeah, sometimes I spot them. Oh, why have they brought that one out?
You sort of think, wow, that's in good nick. That's just
seen-
ready to go.
I think I've seen a couple of the Bentleys in, I think Jack Bartley's or one of the Bentley showrooms, but
Yes.
being looked after, and there's no real sort of bill really to worry about. It's just make sure it's perfect.
Yeah.
So
It does have to be perfect.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's a shame that ethos can't go to the Sandringham collection and have a bit
Well, I
of
suppose
bit of love
unless
over
someone
there.
in the Royal said, "Oh, do you know what? I fancy driving that now." Suddenly, it would be uplifted, and
Yeah.
but as you say, the engine have been seized, and it will be a restoration project, I guess. Now, how many cars are in at any given time? Do you think there would be in that collection ready to go?
At the Palace?
Yeah.
I would think there'd be sort of 10 or 12. And, they generally speaking, they don't get thrashed very much, do they? I mean, they're usually trundling along at 15 miles an hour.
No.
But surely you need to give them a good blast down the motorway now and again just to clear the throat.
Are you volunteering?
Yeah, I am.
An interesting
Police
one.
escort. Imagine
Yeah.
that. Hubba hubba, I'm in.
One very, very interesting one is a Phantom 5 that's there, the thing that has the glass rear back. And it has a
Yes.
cover that can be taken off so you can see the Monarch sitting in the back. That car had its own garage on the QE2. So when they were going off on sort of world tours
Yeah.
and so on, this thing was taken down to the docks, the bumpers removed, and then it was craned on, and it's travelled the world. It's done sort of thousands of nautical miles, that car.
Oh, we had a Land Rover
Wow.
a couple of years ago that was, we couldn't fathom out at the time whether it had a genuine link
Yeah.
to the royal family. And some of the giveaways, because it turned out it was eventually, but some of the giveaways were that it was predominantly serviced in London, and then one service very close to Balmoral, and then back down to London again. So why would they take the car all the way up there? We always said this, but that doesn't make any sense. But someone told me it was something to do with the registration process on how they have cars, and there's only so many they have. It's easier for someone just to take it up there and then
wow.
reuse it.
I couldn't verify that, I don't think,
No,
really.
no,
But
no.
It might just have been a squeaky armrest that needed fixing.
Yes,
Silly,
yes.
silly.
Exactly. Who knows? Are there any specific royal only cars that the rest of us could never buy?
Yeah, well, there is one specific one, and that's the Phantom 4. And that car was only sold to royal families. Initially, not our royal family, but it was available to sort of, dynasties in the Middle East and Africa and so on. And the reason they did it was Rolls-Royce were, increasingly annoyed that there was resistance from the Windsors to actually have a Rolls. They had Daimlers from 1900 to the 1950s, that was the royal car. Often painted in sort of like a chocolate brown colour with black and then a red
Sounding
stripe.
attractive.
You know, the early ones, when they had radiator grills, the radiator grills were often painted black. So that there would be no shine from the front of the car that would detract from the person travelling in the back.
Funny
It's
things,
true.
yeah. Imagine those funny ways.
Wow. That's obviously why I'm attracted to a matte finish, so that
So
I'm the
everyone
one
can
that's
see
shining.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, and they weren't wraps in those days; it was just matte paint. So the Phantom 4 was the stalking horse, really, to sort of get Daimler out of the picture. I think the Duke of Edinburgh didn't really like Daimlers anyway. They had a rough patch of engineering in the 50s, and by the end of the 50s, they'd lost their royal warrant, and Rolls-Royce had taken over. So there are still some Daimlers in the royal collection, but Rolls-Royce and latterly Bentley have had like the exclusive grip on the ceremonial cars.
So do those two companies now have the royal warrant? Are they the only manufacturers?
I think Aston Martin has it, doesn't it?
Oh, yes,
And I
yeah.
think Jaguar and Land Rover have it.
Oh, they're quite common then.
There's lots. I mean, obviously, whenever you see any royal event, it's always there'll be
Land
like
Rover.
a Bentley or a Rolls Royce, and then it'd be flagged by a fleet of Range Rovers.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have often been asked, as a sort of what did you call me earlier? Royal motoring correspondent. As that, I've often been asked by sort of grubby tabloids and things, to sort of spill the beans on how much is the sort of association between Jaguar Land Rover and the royal family worth. And of course, you never find that out.
Oh my gosh!
You won't find it out, nor should you. But they have a very close relationship, and I think it goes two ways. Jaguar Land Rover supply the sort of vehicles they need, and
It gives them a lot of kudos
Global
with,
eyes.
it really does. Yeah. So I think sometimes people want to try and associate something about that is a bit unseemly, but to me it doesn't seem too
Well,
unseemly.
what else are they going to do? Run around on a horse?
Yes.
It's not really.
you can't.
Practical.
It's not like the police force trying to find the cheapest alternative. It's something that's got to fit,
Absolutely.
be appropriate,
Absolutely.
and be muitually beneficial to the manufacturer who are doing it for. It's not for love, because they're obviously selling cars from the
Yeah.
basis that it is a royal car.
Yes. Yeah.
If you can hear some noises, we are just setting up the auction, so people are just clearing the
That's a
throat
bit of
of
atmosphere, isn't it? Yes, why not?
some sort of car. Now then, symbolism on wheels
Yes.
is our next topic. So for us mere mortals then, how do vehicles that we choose send a message? And if we're picking mimicking a royal car, what sort of messages are we...
Well, I think if
Giving
you're mimicking a royal ceremonial car, you're definitely saying, I want to sit up high and be seen.
Yeah.
And so,
No tinted windows.
Absolutely. I think most of us can achieve that fairly easily in a second-hand Range Rover. I think to sit on a back seat where you're risen up and you can really be seen on a sort of mobile plinth, that's slightly different. I mean, Vicky, what are sales of
I'm imagining this
landaulettes
now.
like in this country? They're fairly small, aren't they? Really?
Yes, yeah.
But that has always been a key thing about the design of the cars is that it's a bit of a rolling showcase, really. And in this country, the Queen and the royal family are always sitting. In other countries, often stretched limousines, even Popemobiles, you have
they
to stand
stand.
and hold a rail.
Yeah.
So this sort of regal driving position or travel position is something that's sort of, I think the protocol guys at Buckingham Palace have been working on it since Victorian times, and they've really got that off to a fine art. I'm not sure how that works for anyone else in this country to sit at the back.
I don't know, Vicky. What do you think? We should get ourselves a Range Rover. Just put one seat in the back.
Well, we have done some
slightly
filming
higher.
with
Yeah.
Holland
Yeah.
filming, and I
Yeah.
was in the back waving.
Moving.
Yeah. I have
I
experienced
can
that.
picture it actually.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you were waving, or just with the window down, looking a bit like a dog.
Yeah, exactly. My ears were flapping.
That's a bit cruel.
but fair.
At least you got to go in the car that day.
Yeah. So what about smaller cars? City cars? Are there any royal connections with small ones?
I can't really think of very many. I mean, it is very well rumoured that the Queen took an early Mini around Windsor Great Park, and the link.
heard this one,
The
yeah.
link was, that Lord Snowden, I think, was a mate, a drinking buddy of Alec Isagonis, and he said, couldn't you bring one over and let the old girl have a go in it? So she got to drive a Mini before most other people.
Wow.
But I think the most interesting city thing is probably the Duke of Edinburgh in the 80s. He used to drive around London in a taxi. Do you remember that?
Yes.
He was in the driving seat as well. He
Yes.
wasn't in the back, doing this. He was gesticulating out of the window.
Because you can then go through all the
Yes.
taxi
Do
lanes.
you think he had good chat? Do you think if he sat in the back, he could just chat
To
away?
be fair, I don't think he picked anyone up.
Yeah. Do you think he went south of the river?
I don't think it was.
He certainly would have got hailed a few times though, because it was a metro.
yeah.
It was a metro cab, very boring, boxy-looking thing. But I mean, it didn't have the taxi sign. It probably had a monogram on the door and
Yes,
everything.
yeah.
But yeah, he was always quite interested in unusual cars like that. And in the 60s, he drove a glass-bodied Reliant Scimitar around for a year.
What do you mean glass body? It was made of glass.
It had a glass roof, and it was full of sort of heat dissipating elements made by triplex. It's a prototype, basically.
Yeah.
And I think he'd been to an event somewhere and sort of said, "No, what's this?" And somebody
wonderful
explained the
idea.
whole thing.
That would be then the first experience of a panoramic roof that we have today, potentially.
I guess it would be, yeah. I guess
Yes,
it
they
would
were
be.
presumably they were working on the glass and how you
Yeah.
keep the heat out. I guess
It's a famous car. It's still around, but some incredibly clever publicity person must have just said, "Oh, would His Majesty like it for a year?" Probably expecting him to say, "No, I couldn't possibly." But he went, "Yeah, I'll have that. Thanks a lot."
Love it. But the taxi one, isn't that the ultimate city car?
Well, it's
Honestly,
it's,
that's
there's
genius.
actor that does the same thing. A fair few people in London do that.
Stephen Fry did, didn't he, for a long
That's
time?
it, because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
the turning circle and
Yeah.
the parking.
Yes.
It's a lot easier to live with in London, and you're not driving. I mean, it's not particularly comfortable to drive, but you're not driving very far in London, so it makes sense.
And it's incognito, of course. So I think for when he's not, in his full regalia, being able to sort of.
Sneak around.
Where would you nip off to if you lived in Buckingham Palace? You wouldn't nip anywhere, would you? To be able to go where you want, when you want. It was probably just perfect to slip into the traffic and enjoy the city.
Genius. Love
There's
that.
that thing in traffic next to a Aurora, and they just look forward. Don't look sideways. Just look forward. It's a bit like when you have a row with someone. Just look forward. Just don't look. Don't
They're
look.
not here. They're
The
not
moment
here.
you look, oh my God!
Yeah.
I love it. What about supercars? Any real connections with supercars? Aston Martin aside. Let's say.
No, that's an interesting question. Actually, I can't really.
No, I can't.
I don't
really
think. I
of
think
one,
it would
no.
be because it would be seen as ostentatious, whether it would be almost frowned upon. But it said the Aston Martin link with Giles and the V8 was probably the closest they've come, really.
Yeah.
Because it would be seen as
Well, British to start
flaunting
with,
it, wouldn't it? And then that's always for many decades, the idea of the royals flaunting money has
Yes.
been a problem.
Yes.
So
Yes.
understated being key, or the irony, isn't it? Understated Rolls Royce and
See,
Bentley.
Aston V8 Volante sort of is a supercar, isn't
Yes.
it? It's
Oh, it does.
supercar fringes, anyway.
Yeah.
That was as close as, and yeah, it was,
Yeah.
and that's obviously still a very famous car for that reason. It's
Yeah.
probably the only.
No, they don't seem to show much interest in McLarens, mid-engine Ferraris, Lamborghinis, anything like that.
Yeah.
I can think of no connections. I can't
Actually,
even think of a picture. I don't know if you can.
No,
but,
I
you know.
can't.
Even
No.
William and Harry, I haven't seen or heard of much interest.
No.
But again, I think it's probably an underlying tone of don't be seen to be flash, because that's the one thing that we want to escape from, is to seeing that we've got all the money and everyone else hasn't,
Yes.
which was very much an Elizabeth thing, wasn't it? It needs
Well,
to be part
yeah.
of the people.
Also,
Yeah.
being quite young people, all they can afford really is a new laptop and lots of holidays. They can't run to a car as well as everything else.
And insurance premiums would kill them, of course.
Exactly. What about when the cars actually become, the stars? For example, the, shots of
Yeah.
Princess Diana in an Audi.
Well, I mean that's actually a little bit of a tangent to the rest of the sort of the whole canon of Windsors on wheels, because she was sort of very much on her own then. She got that Audi on a loan from a dealer. I think it was Dovercourt, wasn't it, in North London, something like that.
Good intel, Giles.
And she was sort of a bit of a lone wolf operator, and I don't know. I mean, I'm not patriotic to any sort of crazy degree, but it's a German car. Is that she had an XJS for a while as well, didn't she? And so on. So I think that car is it's one of the few that to me is sort of tinged with a bit of sadness, really.
Yeah.
And, it's and I think we were discussing earlier. It probably because of that curse, it probably something that quite a few people wouldn't want to own.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
It's been up, it's been offered, sold.
That specific car.
Yeah, I also feel like sometimes a lot with the royal cars is that it's like a lot of things with provenance. It sells really well once, but then the distance starts to come between the owners and the royal, and that's the same with celebrity cars or any cars with past owners, is that it's got value if it's coming from that person of note. The value diminishes every single person that owns it afterwards, and when they're publicly sold, of course, that there's an obvious sale. Even if they didn't change the V5, it's an obvious sale of that on and on and on. So that mystique sort of disappears. But you're right. That one was sort of tinged with a bit of sadness. It was a tumultuous time for the royals. So, and I dare say it may have dropped off a little bit of its relevance.
It's interesting what you said there. I mean, were you to buy it, own it, and then drive it? You're driving around in Princess Di's Audi. No one's to really know unless they can recognise, some.
Well, most people say that looks like,
so
and
But I mean, to then tell people that's what you're doing. I don't know. It's
not the same.
It's not Rod Stewart's Miura, is it?
Nor is it the Queen's Land Rover, and you feel like, oh, this is the Queen's Land Rover. This has got something about it,
I mean, maybe it's just a personal thing to me, but it's sort of it would be one of those things you'd start to think maybe I won't mention that to certain people.
Just enjoy it yourself.
The Diana Ebb felt a bit more popular culture and less royals, didn't it? Because it was a massive change in the way that royals had a massive focus on them at that time. Yes. And as you say, initially she was I won't say out on a limb, but it was a normal person, let's say, that was aligned with the royals until then she got married. So it was a bit like a normal person's car.
Yes. And
not necessarily at the time one of the cars that she was from the fleet.
Yeah. And as I said earlier, she's driving an Audi. She's making a statement. I'm not driving a Jaguar, Bentley, a Rover, or anything like that. I'm driving an Audi.
Do you think she was making a statement, or do you just think that was a free car?
I think it was a free car.
I think it was just a free car.
It's practical.
If I change one every week, the paparazzi might not be able to catch me. So
yeah. Well, Hyundai didn't do a convertible in those days. Otherwise, they might have had a look in. So
with their PR savviness. Prince Philip behind the wheel. Do you have any sort of iconic photos in your head of that?
I do, because he was a very keen owner of a Lagonda 3-litre in the early 50s. But the car that sticks in my mind is his Alvis 3-litre, which was the replacement for that. And he had it built with an especially tall windscreen. And he also had the wooden dashboard taken out and sort of leather covered instead, so it wouldn't have any reflection to him. He got quite granular and fussy about all the details of that particular car.
I like that about traditionally about the older cars, the coach built cars, is that ability to be that much more unique to that person's taste, which dropped off, and I feel like it might be coming back a little bit, but there's only so much you can do with a modern car. Whereas the original coach built cars, they could literally, it could do the most wonderful things.
You could, and also it went back to the factory constantly to be brought up to the latest spec. So it starts as a TF, a TE, I can't remember. Anyway, but it ends up as the TF Mark III, or the ultimate thing. It's got a 5-speed gearbox. It's got a disc brake conversion, and
polarising also how cars have become much more disposable than they would have been.
He did a lot of miles in it. I mean, 40, 50,000 miles in that car, and that's all him at the wheel. It's not being driven by his chauffeur or security guy.
Fair play. Why the particularly deep, tall windscreen? Did it affect the?
He's quite a tall man.
Or anything.
He's quite a tall man, and I think it was to get away from what I sometimes call the Triumph stag syndrome. If you haven't got the right physique for a stag, it's quite an uncomfortable car to be in.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And the sort of windscreen rail is here, and I think
sits right where you should be looking.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that he, when he was ordering it, they of course said, would His Highness, not His Highness, Royal Highness, care for anything? They probably thought, I'd like a slightly bigger radio or something like that. They probably weren't thinking, no, actually, could you re-engineer the whole windscreen, which means a different hood and a different hood mechanism and everything.
Could you just imagine the memo going down to the guys? Oh, right, so this one, do what?
Exactly.
Yes.
Also, he must have loved driving that car for him to have adapted it so much, because he could have gone in another car and had a better windscreen that was already there. I find that
I think
incredible.
again, that's a traditionally older. It was the coach build philosophy of things, and the ability to change things was, it's still there. Then people can engineer their way through it, and of course it changed now because of aerodynamics. Wind tunnels have all changed the way in which cars are made, and crash safety. So you can't do those things.
Yeah,
but
fair
then
play.
you could, you could just bastardize anything to how you need it to be.
It's an interesting choice as well because it gets away from the sort of Bentleys and Aston Martins and the sort of truly sort of kind of star-spangled stuff. But it's still sporty, it's still handmade. There's something a little bit nicely subtle about having that Alvis, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that is something, to pick up on what you said earlier. That's something that I think Prince Philip liked. He liked a bit of subtlety in the car because he wanted to enjoy driving. He didn't particularly want to make a statement everywhere he went. That was the sort of the nice, tasteful view he had on what he was going to drive.
Yeah, love it.
He didn't tell me that, by the way. I'm just guessing and thinking that must be true.
What about Charles in an electric Aston?
Yes,
That happened. How many years ago now?
Charles has always been quite the advocate for green and future, so that's not because he also had the electric Jaguar I-Pace that he was shuffled around with. We sold that one 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think that's very much a Charles thing, isn't it? Sort of keeping up with promoting futures and how the country develops, and I think that's quite a clever way in being relevant as well.
That's a bit of a light tree hugger myself. I also think it's a sort of...
As in you hug lightly or you only like light trees? Let's just clarify this. No heavy trees or no heavy hugging?
No heavy trees.
No heavy trees. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, it's sort of I think it's quite a subtle way to lead, isn't it? He's really saying he does. He likes cars. He's also very fond of the environment, and it's a way of expressing that. He's not telling anyone what to do, but he's setting a bit of an example, down to his own personal principles. I think that's quite admirable, really. And he's always shown an interest in cutting pollution and that kind of thing. In fact, with his Aston Martin powered by wine, this is the well, it's not wine, is it?
Bring the cheese.
Bioethanol and whey, but it doesn't sound as good as wine and cheese. But I wonder what they think of Aston Martin when they got the phone call from Clarence House or Highgrove to say, we just want to bring the car over, and could you try a few experiments? We'll bring the things to put in the fuel tank and just see how it goes.
Do you know if they had to make many mechanical changes to the engine for it to run on cheese and wine?
Question. Again, I think it's possibly one of those we couldn't possibly comment things if you did ask us.
I think when the phone call came through, the engineers went
yes.
What? And then the PR team went yes.
Yeah. It is worth spending the time to make that engine work to keep your best customer, isn't it?
100%.
Even if it involves a bloke in a Peugeot partner following him everywhere.
Yeah, just in case.
What is a good investment, do you think, if you were interested in buying a royal car? What would you go for? What tips could you give to anybody?
Well, I mean, firstly, there's not that many cars with royal provenance that ever come on the market, are there?
No, and a lot that do come on the market aren't what are called genuine royal cars. So they are often fleet cars, like you say, cars that have carried the royals but have not necessarily been royal cars. I mean, way back, the first one I remember offering was a Daimler, might have been a Daimler Super 6 or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And it was known to have ferried Elizabeth around with a little handbag thing in the middle and some buttons, which we couldn't even figure out at the time, to be honest with you. And then obviously it had a lot of the police stuff removed.
Yeah.
But it still was, in essence, a taxi. There's very few that really ever come to the market, probably because they're all in that same little museum.
In Sandringham.
On flat tyres, because most of them aren't sold. But again, the same reason they don't like to be seen to be sold, because they don't want it to be rotating around. So the odd Land Rover that may have been owned, typically what they are is they're a Land Rover that was at Sandringham or Balmoral that was just almost a fleet. And if they're lucky enough, they've got a picture of someone driving it, and then that's hanging the provenance on it. Very rarely do cars really come to market that are physically, you're not going to get a logbook saying,
Yes.
King Charles owned it first. It's
and here's my signature.
Yeah, but back to the point of what's probably the most valuable, it's got to be quintessentially royal as well as a collectible. So that's why the Land Rover Series 1 always worked well, because it is
Yes.
understated,
Yes.
always in that grey. It sort of works well. Aston Martins would work well. Anything, I mean, the I-Pace which we sold was still double the value of any other I-Pace at that model, but it was relatively underwhelming in the regards that it was a car that he'd been photoed in drive, but it was just a car that was a Royal Fleet car that had been ferrying at the time Prince Charles, now King Charles, around. So the trick is trying to get something that really shouts royal whilst still being something that someone would want to collect.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, because they must have got through fleets and fleets of Daimler DS 420s.
Yes.
Which is, a perfectly good massive limo though it is. It doesn't have a lot of sort of appeal in the private market. I mean, I suppose you could drive your mother-in-law's in the back.
It became popular with funerals, and then it became popular because it was
it's
particularly heavy, so it was good for scrap. But generally speaking, they've disappeared. They weren't exciting.
No.
I mean, there's a raft of Range Rovers now that will be claiming royal. Someone's ferried in it, someone was moved around, but that will become a bit old soon because there's lots of them.
Yes.
So I wouldn't be putting my money heavily into that. One thing that I would always say is if there's any kind of unique modifications, and even if it is being ferried around, some sort of unique modification that isn't normal, that would have been done by special operations, that would always give it a bit of extra value.
Interesting. Yeah.
Look at these screw holes and brackets.
Absolutely.
Type thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Range Rover in question, we had 2 screw holes, and they were telling us that it had a Labrador motive on the front, not Corgi, a Labrador.
Oh.
But it was never found, of course. But it had 2 little holes, and the photos of these 2 little holes. But the mystique of it, I think, sold it as much as it did the facts, because it was, what could it have been? How many times could it have been used?
Yeah.
Could she have driven it on her own?
Love it. Giles, what is the future though for royal cars? Are they going to be traditionalists, or are they going to be trendsetters? Will the fleet remain exactly the same for the next 50, 100 years?
I mean, if I say I don't have an immediate answer to that question,
I think you'll have
it's because there's a lot to unpack, isn't there? I mean, we tend to associate all the cars we've been talking about with Charles's generation and the maybe 2 above it. The young royals don't seem to be out there, particularly as car enthusiasts. You don't really, apart from William having a Golf. Did he pass his test in a Golf?
That rings a bell.
Something,
Audi A3 or something like that. I mean,
but he seems to have no affiliation to it at all. Does
they
he?
don't. They don't seem to be very interested.
I think he did drive. Oh, who drove Charles's electric Aston after their wedding down away from Buckingham Palace?
That was Harry. Wasn't
Harry
it?
and Meghan.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think
they're just like all kids these days. They just use their parents' cars.
Dad's car.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, there's bound to be that push towards sort of more functional electric because of the push to environment and wanting to seem to be doing the right things. And then I would imagine the royal fleet of old Bentleys and Rolls Royces will remain for stately reasons for certain. But what I can't imagine is, one of the boys going out and saying, yes, I want a brand new Aston Martin to tour around Italy. I just don't think that's in them. But again, that's very much representative of younger people now, isn't it? It's trying to get that engagement.
All the limos, obviously, they're perfectly happy doing 20 miles an hour, aren't they? So, I mean, I think I can see very much an electric future for everything that's ceremonial. And while you're about it, why not get Lunas to whip the old engines out of all the other rollers and Daimlers and put electric
You could see it,
power units in that as well?
Yeah.
I mean,
we've always said that there's a reason, that there's a certain time with classics and electrics where people electrify classics. And we've always said, if the soul of a car is the engine, it shouldn't be done. If it's not the soul of the engine, now, there was always a bit of an argument about Rolls-Royce because the idea of Rolls-Royce engines being silent, but the point of it being silent meant it actually made sense for it to be electric. Because the idea of a Rolls-Royce was to be electric, silent,
quiet,
comfortable. And although the engineering was fantastic, it wasn't the soul of the car. Don't shout. But like a 911, electric 911, I never got the point of that because it was about the soul of the engine, or a V8 Mustang.
Yes.
But maybe you could see they could possibly go that way of maybe we electrify the fleet, and then you think, all those wonderful cars suddenly losing all of that engineering would be a shame.
Yep.
I could see it, but it would be a shame.
But they're cars that exist in a sort of a separate world, aren't they? I mean, whenever you're at home watching a royal event, a wedding, or an opening of Parliament or whatever. These things just they exist in a world of no other cars, driving along a space made by crowds.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit like it's a bit like the horses and carriages. They don't exist in any other world. There's no reason for them other than for the ceremonial effect.
Yeah.
Which we all love.
We do.
We do love it. We do love it. Yeah,
massively love it.
It is a unique thing and a unique little sort of arena that they all operate in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long may they last, I say.
Absolutely.
Well, Giles Chapman, thank you so much for spending some time with us
Thank you so much.
pouring some knowledge. I love it. Thank you very much. Matthew, would you like to say a few little last words?
First of all, if you have been watching, of course, you should have a look at the results from this particular sale to see how that Jaguar E-Type gets on, because obviously that would have hopefully sold by now. But if you are interested in any car, royal or not, selling or buying, please do get in contact. We have a no obligation valuation service here, so please call, email, we'll come out and see you. Thank you again for watching through your social platforms. Click, like, subscribe, give us abuse, don't worry. Tell us if we've said anything incorrect. We'll argue back. But it all does help. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. And until next time, it's goodbye from the three of us. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.